Ahoy! Welcome back to another episode of The Captain's Log. My name's Rick Lee. I'm a systems thinker, transformation designer. I work with leadership and their teams to navigate change and to lead through uncertainty. This is episode 11 of The Captain's Log. So this has been going for some time now. It's I started this back in August as a little experiment, just to do a weekly vlog and to document my journey and to leave some nuggets of wisdom and share with you guys my learnings as I grow as a leader and building out my school community called The Leadership. And the premise for this, the way that I'm formatting these podcasts is, if you would know if you've been listening, is 3 things I learned and 5 things that went well. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump back into that. I'm still living in Canggu in Bali, Indonesia. I've been here for some time now. I'm really enjoying being here in Bali, surrounding myself with some really amazing entrepreneurs, content creators, business people, especially at this time during this big AI rush that's going on. It's very interesting to be around people, young people working on businesses and seeing what's happening in this whole revolution that's going on, one-person companies and really interesting stuff. But 3 things I learned, excuse me, 3 things I learned. And this is one that I guess I didn't really learn this week, but it's something that I just felt to reiterate. I just think it's extremely important and something that just keeps popping up. And the first thing is the importance of psychological safety in organizations, especially during this time of change and uncertainty and implementing new systems and softwares and things like that. Because more often than not, you might be facing some challenge in an organization and you generally think that this is due to some rational problem, some rational thing, whether it's some process or some system or something to that effect. But more often than not, the real challenge or the real resistance to change is actually coming from political and emotional issues that actually sit below the waterline. I've actually got a little model here somewhere. Hang on my desk. I did have it. Where did I put it? Not sure. But I do have this little drawing. But basically, it's 3 circles. And the top circle is rational problems, and underneath that are political and emotional, and they sit below the waterline. And basically, if you don't create the psychological safety for the political and the emotional problems to surface, then you actually can't solve the rational problems. And I can give you an example of this, and probably a very timely example. Let's just say that you're trying to implement some kind of new software into your organization. Could be some kind of like automation or some AI software, for example, that might automate some processes or take away a lot of manual processing or workflow. Now, your team might come to you and come up with all these problems and challenges as to why that software can't be implemented. And you think this is a rational thing, whether it's some integration issue or some process issue or some capability issue. But really, if you give the opportunity for the safety to be present, then what you probably will find, whether it's conscious or subconscious, these challenges are arising or being proposed because maybe those people are potentially worried about losing their jobs, or maybe some inefficiency is going to be uncovered that through the process of working through this transition, and they're hindering the process of going to that new system because there's fear. And so rational problems are actually very easy to solve, but you can't get there until you create the psychological safety for your team to be able to share what's really going on below the waterline. I wish I could find that little Post-it note. I actually had that ready for you, but unfortunately, I don't know what I've done with it. But yeah, so that's something that I would definitely pay attention to, especially during this time of AI integrations. There's a lot of software advancements. If you think about where we were this time last year to where we are now with technology, a lot of processes, workflows, and automations are definitely happening, and this is going to cause a lot of potential unsafety, psychological unsafety for your team members. So do whatever you can to create that safety and reassurance, and to allow those things to surface so that you can get to the rational problems and to the change and the integrations that you need to get to. It's a big one. And I think, generally that's across the board. That happens in an organization. It also happens in, if you look at the systems, the global systems, there's a lot of rational problems that we could get to, but we can't really get to them while there's, political unrest and there's, psychological unsafety around the world globally, geopolitical issues, economic uncertainty, and all this kind of stuff. So, if everyone's kind of caught up in that cycle, it's very difficult for us to come together and solve these rational problems. The second one is, just because you can pick up an elephant doesn't mean you need to. So I think it kind of relates to the first one in the sense that we're kind of in the middle of a gold rush with AI and software and new business models and all these kinds of things. And as somebody who's potentially has a capability to jump in on these things very easily, build landing pages, build automations, build businesses, delegate out projects and work tasks to people that are readily available around the world in remote working, VCs and things like that. It's you can get caught in the trap of trying to, leave what you're doing or drop your core thing and then go and focus on this cool new thing that has a lot of potential. And there's so many of these things around, especially if you're agile and you're good with systems and you're good with technology. But it doesn't mean you need to do it. If you stick to your course, you stick to your purpose, and you stick to things you're doing every day consistently, that's and designing your life to live a happy, fulfilling, and purposeful life, then to me that's more important, is to actually design my life in a happy and healthy way. And so, although there might be all these temptations around, you don't necessarily need to go there and be distracted. It can be a massive distraction to go down that rabbit hole. Just something to pay attention to. I think as well as a leader in an organization, thinking about innovation and ways to integrate some of these technologies into your current offerings and product suites. Good idea to consider it, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. So really consider that and the long-term impact of where that puts you on course. Does it enable your vision? Because the only valid test of an idea, concept, or theory is what it actually enables you to do. So does taking on that thing actually enable the strategic priorities and the vision of your organization, or is it actually just a distraction, and is it actually really taking you off course? Something to consider. And the third thing is that I'm learning to lean into boredom. And this might sound kind of weird, but I find that because I live such a regimented lifestyle, I live a very, every day's pretty much got a very similar routine, whether it's content writing, client work, content production, thinking about the podcast, training, eating well, looking after my health. There are these things that I do every day. And it can be a little bit like Groundhog Day, and sometimes I can get really bored with my routine. And there's something in that. There's really something in leaning into the boredom, because the real wins come from these small, micro, repeated, disciplined tasks that happen on the daily, and actually focusing your lifestyle and your routine around those things. I don't think they come from these big, courageous actions. I think it's rare that they do. I think that usually, if anything, those things are built on like a strong foundation of these core, consistent actions that happen consistently over time. And that can lead to a lot of boredom, or you do feel like you're in this kind of like, same cycle every day. And this is just something that I'm learning, is just to be okay with that. And if I'm bored, I try not to fill the space with something just because I'm bored. What I'm trying to do is actually kind of lean into the boredom and just allow myself to be bored. And I'm learning a lot about my mind as I do that. Actually, it's quite interesting to observe what's going on there. So it's very easy, especially we live in this very fast-paced, dopamine hit kind of environment. I've blocked all my social media apps on my phone, so I'm not doom scrolling if I'm bored. I do get caught in it sometimes, but I'm really trying to have discipline around not doing that. And so I kind of just force myself to lean into that. And I'm actually learning a lot about myself as I do that. So those are my 3 things. And my 5 things that went well, I'll just run through these really quickly. I think this will just be a really quick update this week. And I will just kind of update you on where I'm at with the leadership community shortly. But the first one is I started working on an About Me video. So I've got a friend of mine here in Chengdu called Will Adamy. He's a filmmaker. And this week we started scripting an About Me video, which I'm going to put on my social platforms. So it's very hard to synthesize what I actually do, because I do work with complexity and there's so many aspects to it. But through working with Will through this like feedback, and he's very good at kind of drawing out that story, I'm hoping to be able to kind of synthesize that in 1 minute and share it with a bit of B-roll, so you guys can have a little bit more clarity about what I actually do, how I actually got here. I also finally finished editing the reels for Design on Purpose 28. So I am doing this on my own at the moment. Season 4, I am hoping to outsource. I have started recording those. So I've just been putting SOPs, standard operating procedures together, so I can ship that off to get that outsourced. But I've just finished cutting all the reels and launching all the reels for DOP 28 with Nick Gibson. And then the third thing is I'm making gains with my posture, more gains. And this is another interesting thing too, because, and it kind of applies to organizational design actually, because a lot of the times we look at the symptoms of what's actually going on, what's appearing, the problem, but we're not actually looking at the system of how that problem's actually occurring. And I've been learning a lot through fixing my posture and how it applies to my work, because I had, kind of a scoliosis and a bit of a kyphosis. And I've been working the last 2 years to correct my posture, fix my gait cycle, and do all these things. And through the process, I'm actually been learning a lot, because I initially thought that it was around my shoulder and my back. Then I realized it was how I was walking, my gait cycle, my hips, that was causing my head to be in a forward posture to counterbalance the weight. And then, through that process of actually pulling that thread, I've actually noticed some things, and instead of going directly to the shoulder or the back, I've actually been working on the whole system, which is like my diet, my lifestyle, stresses, because that impacts your fascia and hydration and things like that. And also, as I go, I'm uncovering these other little kind of dysfunctions that are causing other little bits that are kind of putting me out of balance. So I noticed that there's a connection between my left shoulder and my right hip, and so I'm actually working more on my right hip to kind of get that shoulder unlocked. And I've also observed that now is the time to start working on my rhomboids and teres minor to get my shoulders back. So I've started to build a really nice foundation on my hips and my gait cycle, and now I'm starting to work on these other little things further up my back. Fourth thing is I've got a really amazing life here in Bali. I did say that I was leaning into the boredom, but my life here is very, very good. I'm very blessed to live the life that I live. Living in paradise with a lot of really cool, interesting young entrepreneurs. And it's just going super well. It's very inspiring to be here. And the fifth thing is I've been taking more time to rest. So this last 3 months I've been working pretty hard on a strategy, client strategy, and it does take up a lot of my mental capacity, because even though I'm only working on that part of my week, I can't just turn that off. I'm thinking about it all the time, thinking about it in the sauna or in the shower, or if I'm going for a walk on the treadmill or whatever it is I'm doing. It's constantly there in my awareness. And it does take up a lot of my brain capacity and my problem-solving capacity. So I handed that off last week, or actually Monday this week, and I'm just noticing how tired I am, and I'm just allowing myself to rest. Actually, I'm just allowing myself to recuperate, to rest, and to recharge, which is actually very hard for me to do a lot of the time. And this is one of the things that I'm big at is one of the big learnings for me right now, is just to pay attention to that and just to allow that and to pay attention to my body and do all of those things. So those are my 5 things that went well as well. And just a quick one this week. I am still building the leadership community. Now that I've kind of passed off this client project, I will have more capacity to get back onto that, and I'm determined to get that happening before the end of the year. If you do have any questions, or you do have anything that you'd like to ask about in terms of leadership, co-design, systems change, any softwares or anything like that, then please do make a comment below. Like and subscribe to the channel if you don't already. It doesn't cost you anything. And do enlist into the leadership community. I do have a waiting list there to onboard people and let people in. I will be sharing the second brain with people in this community. And I think it's going to be good. There's some good people who have already signed up for the leadership, and I'm going to be giving out a lot of value, and I'm going to be there to support you. I'm going to open up the window once a week. There's also some awesome leaders on this in this community already, signed up to this community. So we'll be able to help you problem solve once a week with any challenges that you're facing and navigating this crazy, complex world that we're going through right now. And as I've mentioned many times on this podcast, it is going to be exponential. The change is going to be exponential. If you notice how much change we went through this year, or even the last 5 years, imagine it's going to double, triple, quadruple. We're going to get faster and faster and faster as we go. So that's it for me today, guys. Remember to take care of yourself. Keep your training in. Keep those anchors in. And focus on your purpose. Keep moving towards your vision. Don't pick up an elephant just because it's there. Be mindful of that. And that's it from me. Hold fast.